Hello, and welcome again to another edition of Stay at Home and Brew It. My name is Brock. To the left of me,
Cedric.
and to the right of me,
Jeff.
I hope everybody is staying safe out there in TV land, and everybody is brewing to their heart's content. Today we're going to, the topic of discussion is, let's talk about wood.
Yeah, see, a lot of times, we'll have wood-aged beers, and people will want to do a wood-aged beer, but buying a barrel is kind of intimidating because one, it's a lot of, it's a huge container. You got to brew a lot of beer to put in it, and even some of the smaller barrels that homebrewers can get, 5 and 10 gallon barrels, you don't always get the results that you'd like to get from a barrel aged beer. But before we get into that, the idea, okay, well, why would we add wood to our beer? What would be the benefits of that, or what are some things that we can gain from wood aging our beer?
Yeah, definitely. One of those things is you can definitely add complexity to a beer if you don't think that the beer is lived up to its full potential. Sometimes adding wood to bigger styles can kind of round it out and add a couple of extra notes to it. What's another reason, bro?
I think definitely balancing out the high alcohol, but I've always been a whiskey drinker, and I really like the taste of oak anyhow, so I can't think of anything better than maybe a big imperial stout that has a little oak characteristic, or maybe even a little whiskey soaked oak characteristic in there.
Yeah. And a lot of times what I've liked to do is I've liked to take oak cubes, soak them in my favorite whiskey or bourbon, and then use that as something to age my beer on. So you're getting a little bit of that wood character, and then also a little bit of the spirits character in there as well. But of those other things, I mean, as a homebrewer, when we look at the idea of beers that we can age on wood and beers that we can put wood into, there's a variety out there. I mean, truth be told, you could wood age any beer.
I think that you could, yeah.
Even a seltzer.
Have you ever done that?
I haven't so far, but I will.
Okay. Dude, we should take your old fashioned.
I do have an old-fashioned version that would be quite tasty in a barrel. If we could get a small 5-gallon one, something that's manageable for us to kind of tote around.
For those of you who have not seen it, Cedric is our own in-store seltzer expert, and he did an episode on how to make seltzers, and we did that last week, I guess it was.
Yeah, last week.
So if you want to check that out, that's still online. Go and check it out, and you can find out more about making seltzers. But a wood-aged seltzer actually would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of a lot of people don't talk about wood and lighter styles of beer. Usually when they refer to wood and beer, they talk about very big styles with a lot of alcohol to it.
Okay.
But it's something that you can even add complexity to something simple like a seltzer as well. Yeah.
What are some of the beers that y'all have had that were typical, you've most oftentimes seen as wood-aged beers?
I generally see, like I was talking about, really big stouts, imperial stouts. Doppelbocks, I see that a lot with a little bit of a wood age.
And also one of both of our favorites is the Petrus Aged Red.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
It's really good.
Flanders Reds and Flanders Browns are always good on wood. Yeah. Actually, wood aged beer I had that was really phenomenal that we can't get here in Texas anymore, which stinks, is Allagash Curio. Y'all ever had
love
that?
the Curio. That's one of my favorite beers.
That's a find.
if memory serves, do they take Maker's Mark barrels and age it in those?
I can't recall.
Okay, but that's actually a Belgian style triple that they take and they age in these bourbon barrels. And it's a phenomenal beer. It's a really phenomenal beer. But I mean, you could some other ones would be porters. Of course, we mentioned stouts. Yeah. Actually, some Belgian beers like Dark Strongs, or even a Double. There was St. Bernardus did their Apt 12, which they aged on whiskey barrels, if memory serves me.
God, it sounds glorious.
It was a phenomenal beer.
I've also seen recently some Imperial IPAs or double IPAs aged in a couple of different barrels.
Okay.
And I mean, even the one from RAR that's aged in tequila barrels. I mean,
the Adios.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one too. Yeah, we just got some of that actually.
Yeah,
it
really
was terrific. One of my favorites was the Gubna from Oscar Blues.
Oh, okay.
They did it in a tequila barrel.
Yes.
It's already an outstanding beer, but man, that one time, and I had it on draft too, which is even better.
Well, see, not only can you get like the spirit character out of a lot of those wood aged beers, but then you can also get some other characteristics which are really, really nice. You can get characteristics of vanilla, caramel. You can get even
Tobacco.
Yeah. What are some of the other any other things y'all can think of that we get?
I mean, anything that's going to be that toasty, you know, oak.
Vanilla?
Yeah.
Oh, you said
Yeah,
vanilla?
we said
Yeah.
vanilla.
Some of the vanilla notes, and then you can get those. But then
There's more. Maybe somebody will tell us about it.
yeah, I mean, if there's other characteristics you can get, let us know. But some of the ones we always find most pronounced are some of the vanilla and caramel characters, and even just some of that characteristics that the wood itself actually has.
Yeah.
Now there are different types of wood that can be used in aging your beer. Some of the most common ones are, well, one of the most common ones is oak. And I think a lot of us have had beers that have been aged on oak or oak barrels. And, you know, there's different types of oak. There's American, French, Hungarian.
The gamut of it.
Yeah.
Have you used all of those styles?
I've actually used, I've used French and American. I've not used the Hungarian yet.
Okay.
I used the Hungarian.
You did?
I have
The
as
Hu-
well.
The Hungarian is a little, it's more subtle.
Okay.
It usually takes longer time to actually get, if you want it like in your face, which is a lot different from the French oak, where short amount of time and you can get
Yeah.
a nice powerful pack on it. So
Well, and the American oak is pretty powerful too. I've noticed that when I've used American oak, I mean, it gives you its strong oak
Right
presence
away.
really quickly. Which
How about like a toasting on there? So you've got these different kinds of oaks, and they all come in a different toast, right? You got your light toast, your medium toast, and then of course your heavy. What is that going to do to my beer? Is that going to bring out a little bit more of that flavor when that toast comes in, or do you get different flavors, different vanillas?
when you're talking about a darker toast, you're gonna get kind of the flavors of raisin, kind of a little bit more darker fruit from it. And when it comes to taste, I have yet to use a lighter toast than a medium. That's the lightest that I go, and that's just per the beer styles that I was brewing at that moment. And you
yeah,
can-
I've normally tended towards a medium to dark toast. Kind of like Cedric said, you get some of those kind of almost like a burnt raisin character in there in the background.
Nice.
You get some of
Is that
the
Maillard kind of thing?
Yeah,
or-
darker caramels. Like, you know, you've had some caramels that have like that really stronger, kind of richer taste to them. You'll get that with a darker toast. I had one beer one time that I did with a light toast, but it was the chips,
Okay.
and that did not go well. It was about a weekend, and I decided I was going to taste it, and thought I'm going to be aging this for a while on these oak chips, and you know, I had about a week and a half in, and y'all ever lick popsicle sticks?
I haven't had the Bluebell ice cream with the little stick.
Yeah.
In it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
yeah, with the little
Yeah.
like paddle that
Yeah.
comes down. It was like that, but in beer form.
Okay, so almost like
Like astringency?
tannins, yeah, astringency.
Exactly, like astringency.
Kinda
Which,
like a what?
well, we talked about
We did in a video we did not too long ago.
yeah, we
Yeah.
did talk about astringency.
I
If
was
you'd
there
like
for
to
that.
find
That was,
you
that was
were-
super
you were
fun.
part of
we
that
gotta,
one.
we gotta replay that one.
Yeah. So the chips can be kind of strong. You got to be careful with those, which actually also brings us to the idea of different ways in which, as homebrewers, we can use oak when you can't buy a big barrel, or you don't have enough beer to fill it, or maybe you have a barrel already at home and somebody you live with has said you put one more barrel in this house and you're
That is it.
you're gonna be living in the barrel. So
We have some different kinds actually, and they're all a little bit different. They all give you a little bit different level of that oakness to it. And like he was saying with regular oak chips, I think the surface area is kind of what we're talking about here, right?
Yes.
If there's a lot more surface area to it, you're going to pick up and impart a lot more of that oak flavor.
And the surface
into your
area
beer.
really has to do with how the amount of time that it's going to take for you to reach that level to where you're tasting it really, really hard.
Of
you know?
course, too, yeah, and I think if you're looking for something that's a little more subtle, you're going to want something, probably maybe like this stick here, where it's not going to have that amount of surface area if we don't want that to overwhelm. Now, I talk to people, I hear this all the time, oh, I had that oak aged, whatever it was, and the oak completely took over that beer.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of people complain of that, so that might be something that you would want to use in there. For my takes, the more oak you can pour in there, the better. I really like that oaky flavor.
Okie doke.
Yeah, so I've always gone with the cubes. I found that the cubes work really, really nice for that. The chips is almost a little bit too much. Have you had that experience?
Yeah, the chips and even the shavings are a little bit much. I mean, they impart the wood character really
used
quickly.
these.
I've always liked the cubes, and the reason I've liked the cubes is because if you're able to leave the beer on the cubes for 3, 4, 6 months, something like that, you get this interchange in between the fact of the beer soaking into the wood and the wood character kind of coming, this process of it kind of going in and out of the wood, such that you're extracting a lot of those vanilla characters, those caramel and toffee characters, and some of those that make for a beer that tastes, that has that great wood character, but then all those characteristics that a toasted wood can have that, is very different from licking your popsicle stick that you had, which is
Not good.
Not good.
Not good.
Nobody wants popsicle stick flavor.
No.
These things are kind of cool here. I've never used this honeycomb.
Yeah, the honeycomb shapes
Can
are
you see
something
that at
that's
all?
a little newer. They took the wood and drilled precision holes in it so that they can allow your beer to soak through it as well.
So this is for surface area. Again,
Yeah,
right?
they give you more surface area so beer can go through it. They
Yeah.
think that will turn over your beer.
But
a
not
lot
near as
faster.
much surface area as the shavings or the chips.
Okay.
Now, when you do wood, do you put yours in a bag?
No, actually, I do not. I let my wood kind of roam free in my fermenter, so to speak. Of course, I'm using cubes, so it's not too difficult to let my wood kind of float around a little bit in there. Plus, what I like about the cubes is, in the end, like when I've made some Flanders Reds, and some, you make some of those Brett beers, things where you've thrown in PDO and lacto, and what happens is that infects the wood. That gets into your wood, and then you can take that and put it in your next batch, which I've enjoyed. So I'm able to get some of those
infection in the wood there.
Yes.
So it's almost like you've inoculated that. Now you can use that to bring that bread on over.
Correct.
So pretty much it's your own personal little fooder that,
Yeah,
you
kind
could,
of.
that you could carry around
Sure.
with you.
Cedric and I were talking
Absolutely.
earlier about, do we start talking about fooders and such, but
Yeah,
that's
it's
a
a
little,
little too
more
big.
than the average homebrewer can do.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about if somebody wanted to do this, when could you put that oak in your beer? So I've got this beer. I've decided that I want to do this. When can I put that in my beer? Should I throw it in my primary? Should I throw it in my secondary? Should I throw it in my keg? And I really think probably the answer is yes for all those. Now, I've never done it in a primary, but I can't imagine that it would harm anything.
I haven't either.
I think it would kind of depend on your brewing technique. If you're one of those that brews in one vessel and you'll sit it in your primary and you'll let it go for 14 days, I think you can use it then.
Okay.
The yeast transformation probably wouldn't bother it at all. It'll probably actually finish a little bit slower as the yeast tend to cling on to wood, but I wouldn't see any problem with putting it in your primary. It's just that
Probably
flavor.
the best flavor you can get is maybe put it into your secondary,
Yeah,
or even
yes,
throw it in
definitely.
and then I would worry about if you wanted to put it into your keg. That is something that if you took a long time to drink that. Actually, we've got some friends out at Parker County, and they do a fantastic beer out there. They wood age it,
Okay.
and they're fermenter, and they release a version of it. I think every month for 4 months is what it is. I something like that. And you go and you can actually, by the end of that time, you can actually take the flight and have, as it's got, so there's more beer coming out of the fermenter, so it's more concentrated on the oak that's in there, and then over that time, and it's
Okay.
aged as well, so you get to try the different
that's nice.
levels of it, which is pretty neat. But if it was something where if you had this very, very big beer, high alcohol, and you weren't going to drink it all at once, I would maybe think that was going to change as well. So if you were looking for a consistency,
Sure. Secondary.
probably put it in your secondary. That way you can transfer it in your keg. You'll get the same beer throughout your entire
Correct.
session.
Now, it's one thing also which we haven't touched on yet is how do you prepare the wood before you're going to put it in? Because you look at all this and you think, okay, well, do I just rip open the package and throw it in? I mean, you can, but I've done a couple different little kind of preparations for wood.
Okay.
Tell us about 'em.
One that I've done is actually soaking it in bourbon or whiskey or something like that. Or I had a buddy actually who soaked his in scotch. We did like a little comparison of I had my oak cubes I'd soaked in bourbon. He had soaked his in scotch. We made the same beer, aged them separately on those, and then tried them. But so I've done that before. I just let them soak on in the bourbon, and I didn't have any problem with infection or anything like that.
Sanitized, I think absolutely at that
Yeah.
point I wouldn't worry about throwing it in a beer at all. Now, so a good way to do that, if you had, your chips. What I've done in the past is I've just taken a Tupperware container, measured out how much spirit I was going to put in there, and then soaked them right in there with a seal on it. I've always put them in the fridge. I don't know why. I suppose it doesn't have to be the alcohol.
Yeah,
it doesn't
I'll let it
matter.
sit on my
It's
shelf.
alcohol. Yeah.
But I would say probably the amount of time that you had that soaking in there as well, it would impart as much of that spirit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Stubby, you're about to say
If
something.
you don't want flavor in or you can always use vodka.
Okay.
Soak them
Maybe
for-
just flash
Or-
it or soak it, you think?
Yeah, soak it until they sink. That's typically
Or
what
one
I
thing
do.
which I've done, which I also had good luck with, was I took my oak cubes and those kind of strainers that you can put in a pot for steaming vegetables and stuff.
Yeah.
Stuck that in the bottom of my pot with a little bit of water down there, brought it to a boil, threw my oak cubes on it, and then steamed the living daylights out of them for about
Sure.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
And
Just like a broccoli steamer, is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about? I think that would work great too. It'd kill everything.
That's
In fact,
actually a nice, good homebrew hack, right? there.
yeah.
No, indeed. So, I mean, you have these breweries and they have these barrels. They've gotten these barrels from, if they get it from a distiller or something like that, they know that it's wet. I think it's probably okay at that point.
Yeah.
Some of it say, we just put it in and pray, and other guys, they have to treat this in some fashion. In fact, if I had a smaller barrel at home, do you guys know of what I should do to sanitize that barrel? The bigger breweries, they'll have a steam wand, so a higher level of what you were talking about, they can just steam it out. But some of them don't have that capability. It's an expensive thing.
For me, it's always been filling it up with your favorite whiskey to kind of let that alcohol seep back into the wood
Okay.
and kind of touch everything. That way, that alcohol can, kill mostly everything.
What if I have like a 15-gallon barrel? Could I throw the whiskey in there and then just shake the guy, move it around?
I would
after
roll it
day?
around, definitely. And we also sell some barrel cleaner solution that if
Is
you
that
get a
what we
very
have here?
naturally barrel.
Oh no, that's actually
French
chips.
oak chips.
Oh, French.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have it. It's called Barrel Oxy, Oxy Barrel, something like that. That really helps clean it out and refurbish. Because a lot of times when homebrewers get barrels, we don't know the proper care instructions for the barrels.
Sure.
You throw it in your closet, let it sit for 3 months without anything in there, and then you come back and it won't seal at all.
Sure.
And there's a little process that you have to rework the whole barrel in order to get it back to where you want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something also to keep in mind with some of these methods, which somebody had mentioned actually on the chat here on the live cast, that of how much to put in, and somebody had said they'd had good luck with the honeycomb, and well, how many do you put in? Do you put in 1? Do you put in 3? Do you put in 10? 1 should be fine,
1 for 5.
and 1 for 5 gallons is good.
Yeah, that's what they recommend here too.
Yeah,
That
and
just
and even if you're working with like the cubes, you can put in. You don't have to put in the entire package. You can put in less, and then kind of let it sit for a little while longer and check it. That's one of the things to do with all these ones when you're wood aging is go back and check it every once in a while. Take a little sample, take your thief or something and sample it, see where it's at. And you'll notice that as your beer ages on the wood, it's going to go through a different process. And, for a while, it'll have on some characteristics, and you'll think, okay, is it good now? You let it a little longer, and as it has more time to seep into the wood and draw out more of the characteristics of the wood, you get more of those those beautiful caramel and vanilla and things like that going on in there too. But
And it's one thing for wood, something that we preach all the time is patience. Definitely patience on this part, because at one point you will find yourself not liking it. You'll say, oh, there's not enough wood in it. What do I need to do? I
Yeah.
really want that flavor to kick me in the mouth. And as you wait and let it sit and kind of let it all mellow and mesh together, that's like 2-3 months around down the line, and you may not want to wait that long. So a lot of times it's just patience based.
yeah. All right. Well, anything else you guys can think of? We mentioned oak earlier, but truth be told, there's actually a lot of also different types of wood that you can age your beer on.
Yeah.
People have used cedar. You can use cherry wood, white ash. We've actually some of the honeycomb actually comes in a
We
number of
have
different varieties.
hickory, we have red oak, birch. What's this one over here?
Do we have beechwood for beechwood aging?
That's a
Beechwood
heated
smoked
debate when it
malts.
comes to homebrewing. Beechwood or not?
To beechwood age or not to beechwood age? That is the homebrewing question.
Yeah, there's a lot of different woods out there, and I mean, it only takes one person trying a new wood to make it a new sensation. So, you
I would
know,
just experiment with it. In fact, there are, I don't know the website offhand, but I just Googled what you impart from different species, and there was a lot of different information out there too. If you wanted something that was more vanilla laden, or if you wanted something that was into even the peatier side, that sort of thing, there was all kinds of stuff on there I was reading, and I wish I had that information available. But I really like your 3A there. I think you should tell them about 3A.
Oh, I forgot to mention that. In case y'all didn't know, we had a little outline to kind of keep us somewhat organized on this one. But one of the things I mentioned on there was, don't just use wood that you pick up at Home Depot, Lowe's, or your lumber yard. There's
and why's that, Jeff?
reason for
Why
that.
can't I use that?
Reason for that is a lot of that wood has been treated with chemicals, and those sorts of things are not good. You don't want those chemicals when in your beer. It does not make for a really good beer. So you'll want to avoid a lot of just the wood that you can find just at random lumber
Plywood
yards.
is the tiramisu of wood, man. I gotta get those different layers of glue in there.
So
What about a piece of mesquite from my backyard that I cut off the tree or fell off the tree? Have you ever used anything like that?
I've not used any wood that I've gotten on my own, but I would say if you're using something like that, do some reading about the wood, find out about it. The reason I say that was there was a talk I went to at HomebrewCon this last year, which talked about wood aging, and one of the things the guy was talking about was using types of wood that are non-traditional. And he was talking about a wood, and I wanted to say it was sour wood, but that doesn't quite sound right, where he was talking about the fact that the wood was actually poisonous.
Oh.
However, he was saying that the amount of parts per million that the poison would go into
no longer poisonous.
was no longer poisonous if it kept at a below that level. You could drink that.
Is he a scientist?
But-
I want to do some
See,
real research.
with so many different selections of wood out there. I would want to.
I would say,
put something in my beer that wasn't.
You probably want to
poisonous
shop
at all.
around for
Yeah,
wood.
I would say, more than anything, for wood aging your beer, especially as a home brewer and looking for alternatives to a barrel, use some of the ones that your home brew store has. I mean, we've got the oak sticks or staves, we've got shavings, we've got
Yeah.
the honeycomb, the cubes, the chips.
We
a
even
lot of
have
different
Very
options.
American
Oakmore.
oak. Yep. Oakmore.
Yeah, if you want to use that, that would come in really quickly. It's almost like sawdust of oak. So it imparts really, really quick. So if you want to turn something over quick, if you're trying to do quick beers, like quick lagers y'all were talking about.
Quick lagers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
a
can,
bunch of lagers. Love the lagers.
All right.
well, I believe we made it through this whole thing without a good
I
joke.
think so too. I would say just experiment with it. If you
Play with
come
your
across
wood.
something, you should definitely play with your wood. It's a good thing. I mean, God gave us hands to create, so.
We don't want to kill anybody's creativity down here. Just because we have just these little subsects of wood, you can try any wood that
Yeah.
you want to.
Yeah, and also, I mean, with your favorite spirit, it doesn't have to always be whiskey. I do a saison noir that is it's fantastic. I use the Hungarian oak cubes, and we soak it in a spiced Kraken rum.
That's another light beer style that you can
And
age.
it really, really comes through the rum notes on it, which it makes a really nice balance with it. So I would just say that to go ahead and try it out. It's a pretty simple thing.
Don't be afraid of trying the wood. Don't be afraid of trying to wood age your beer. Try it with a few of your beers, whether you try it during conditioning or secondary. Don't be afraid to give it a try, but again, sample it. and know what you're using. If you're first starting out with it, start out with some of the proven methods of using the cubes or the chips or the honeycomb or the staves. Okay, so we appreciate you joining us, and if this is the first time joining us, there's other episodes. Cedric and I talked about homebrewing 101, and Brock and I talked about how to do lagers for the first time. As well as Brock also talked about setting up a draft system.
Michael has the making a beer kit your extract kit.
Yeah. So try some of our other videos, and
Absolutely. We're trying to do these videos daily for y'all as well. And if you have any suggestions of something we could cover, we'd love to hear from you. Also, our storefront is closed, but we are accepting all of our internet sales. For ship out, any order over $49 is free. You can choose for curbside as well. We just ask that we send you the pickup email before you come up here, and we can get you that stuff. We have all kinds of specials going. And if you have any questions, call anybody in the shop. We would love to talk with you guys.
Also, if you try aging your beer on any non-traditional wood, go ahead and send us an email. Tell us how it worked for you, kind of your method of what you were doing. And we'll be sure to include those, try to wrap those up in some of our later casts down the road.
Yeah.
Other than that, have a good Friday,
yeah,
right?
And tune in next week.
Have a
We'll
good
have
Friday.
some more episodes for you. You'll have a happy Easter and a good Friday and everything else.
Happy Friday!
Cheers.
Cheers!